A lone survivor, Jack, navigates the abandoned highways of a zombie-ravaged America. As he stops at a deserted gas station to refuel, eerie signs of recent activity hint that danger is near. He narrowly escapes an ambush, setting the tone of isolation and suspense. Part 2, Ghost Town Memories. Jack reaches a seemingly deserted town. While scavenging for supplies, he encounters haunting reminders of the past and barely escapes a hidden zombie horde. He finds clues about a rumored safe haven to the north. Part 3, Roadblock and Reckoning. Jack's path is blocked by a wrecked convoy. Searching for a way around, he encounters other survivors. Suspicion and tension rise, questioning who can be trusted in this harsh new world. Part 4, Nightfall in the Wasteland. Forced to camp overnight in an open field, Jack fights to stay awake as zombies lurk just beyond the firelight. Flashbacks reveal his past and what drove him to this solitary journey. Part 5, Betrayal at Dawn. An unexpected betrayal from one of the new survivors threatens Jack's life. He must make a quick decision to survive and escape their trap. Part 6, The Highway Ambush. Driving through a narrow mountain pass, Jack faces a zombie ambush unlike anything he has seen before. His driving skills and quick thinking are put to the ultimate test. Part 7, Crossing the Bridge. Jack approaches an old, crumbling bridge rumored to be the last crossing before the safe zone. The bridge is unstable and crawling with zombies. He must find a way across without being overwhelmed. Part 8, The Road to Nowhere. Jack reaches the coordinates of the safe haven only to find it deserted. As hope fades, he makes a critical choice about his future, to keep moving forward into the unknown or settle where he is. Now, here's part 1 with approximately 795 words, written in third-person style. Part 1, The Last Gas Station. The endless highway stretched before Jack like a ribbon unraveling into a gray, silent wasteland. The sun hung low, casting long shadows across the cracked asphalt, and the wind whispered through the skeletal remains of trees. Dead America was no longer a place on the map, it was a landscape of silence and fear. Every mile he drove carried him further away from what had once been a life, friends, family, normalcy, now swallowed by the relentless tide of the undead. Jack gripped the steering wheel of his rusted-out pickup truck, eyes scanning the barren horizon. His supplies were running low, just enough gas to push him to the next stop, maybe. He hadn't seen another car in days, only twisted wrecks and burned-out shells that told stories of desperate attempts to outrun the collapse. Ahead, the faded sign of a gas station flickered weakly in the dimming light. It was a flicker of hope, and he pulled off the road with the weary caution of a man who had learned the hard way that hope could be just as deadly as the zombies that roamed the highways. The gas station looked abandoned, broken windows, faded paint peeling from the rusted metal walls. But signs of recent movement were there, a trail of tire tracks in the dust, a few cans knocked over near the door. Jack's heart thudded as he grabbed his backpack and a crowbar from the passenger seat. He knew better than to trust an empty building. The door creaked as he pushed it open, revealing rows of empty shelves and overturned displays. The stench of rot clung to the air. No living soul inside, but danger often lurked where it was least expected. Jack moved slowly, senses heightened, every creak and groan making him freeze. Suddenly, a faint rustle came from the back storage room. Jack raised his crowbar, inching forward. The sound grew louder, then silence. He peeked around the corner and spotted a lone figure crouched near a pile of crates. Relief flooded him momentarily when he recognized the shape, a dog, scrawny and covered in dirt, its eyes reflecting the fading light. Jack crouched slowly, whispering, "Easy, boy." The dog, hesitant at first, sniffed the air and then wagged its tail weakly. It was a rare sight in this world, a living creature still alive and uninfected. Jack offered the dog a bit of jerky from his pack, and as the animal ate, he let down his guard just a little. The companionship was comforting, a reminder that not everything was lost. Then, without warning, a noise shattered the fragile calm. From outside, guttural groans echoed through the broken windows, the unmistakable sounds of zombies closing in. Jack grabbed the dog's collar and sprinted toward the back exit. The groans grew louder, desperate and hungry. He slammed the door behind him and bolted toward his truck, the dog's paws pounding on the cracked pavement beside him. From the gas station roof, a group of zombies had appeared, their decaying hands reaching out as Jack fumbled with the truck's keys. Heart pounding, he finally got the engine started. The dog jumped into the passenger seat, eyes wide with fear. Jack didn't look back as the truck roared to life and barreled down the highway, kicking up clouds of dust. The undead swarmed the gas station behind him, their groans fading as the distance grew. But Jack knew better than to believe he was safe. This world was a cage, and every stop was a trap waiting to snap shut. As night fell, Jack's headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the broken road ahead, the road to nowhere. Would you like me to continue writing the next part next? Or do you want me to adjust anything in part 1? The moon hung high and cold as Jack's truck rumbled along the cracked highway. The dog, now settled into the passenger seat, glanced nervously out the window. The silence between them was heavy, broken only by the hum of the engine and the occasional rustling of dead leaves drifting across the road. Hours had passed since the narrow escape at the gas station, but the images of groaning figures on that roof haunted Jack's mind. In this world, every moment of safety was borrowed time. Every shadow could hide death. He needed supplies, food, water, maybe even medical kits, but more than that, he needed answers. Ahead, the outline of a town emerged against the horizon. The flicker of streetlights long dead, broken storefronts, and deserted streets made it clear, the town was abandoned, left to rot like so many others. But Jack had learned the hard way not to trust empty places. Sometimes, the worst threats came from what, or who, you couldn't see. He pulled the truck into the cracked main street and shut off the engine. The dog barked once, low and wary. Jack opened the door and stepped out, crowbar in hand, scanning the surroundings. The town was silent except for the distant creak of a rusted sign swinging in the wind. Broken windows stared like empty eyes, and the smell of decay lingered thick in the air. He moved cautiously toward a grocery store on the corner, his best hope for supplies. Inside, dust danced in the weak moonlight filtering through cracks in the boarded-up windows. Shelves were mostly empty, but Jack found a few cans and bottled water tucked behind a fallen display. As he gathered what he could, his footsteps echoed unnervingly in the empty space. Suddenly, a faint noise came from the back, a soft shuffle, barely audible. Jack froze, every muscle tensed. He crept forward, peering into the shadows. A small group of zombies stirred in the storage room, hidden beneath broken furniture and debris. Their lifeless eyes fixed on him. Jack's heart pounded as he backed away slowly, then ducked behind a counter. The undead moved clumsily but deliberately, closing the gap. Jack grabbed a metal pipe lying nearby and prepared to defend himself. With a surge of adrenaline, he struck the nearest one down, the hollow thud of impact filling the room. The others turned, groaning louder now, their hunger evident. Jack dashed through the aisles, knocking over shelves and throwing canned goods to slow them. He burst through the front door, slamming it behind him as the creatures stumbled after. Outside, he didn't stop to catch his breath. He sprinted to the truck, throwing himself behind the wheel and slamming the door shut. The dog barked fiercely, teeth bared, as the zombies reached the glass windows, pounding with desperate strength. Jack's hands shook as he started the engine and peeled out onto the empty street. The zombies retreated, their groans fading into the night. As he drove away, Jack's mind raced. This town held more than just empty buildings and zombies, he had seen signs of life. Footprints in the dust. A hastily scrawled message on a street lamp, Safe Zone North. Hope stirred in Jack's chest. Maybe there was a place left untouched. A place where survival wasn't just a desperate fight but a chance to rebuild. But the road ahead was uncertain, broken highways and dead ends, where every turn could lead to safety or doom. He glanced at the dog, its eyes reflecting the flickering dashboard lights. Together, they moved forward, two lone souls driven by a fragile thread of hope in a world gone silent. Let me know when you want me to continue with part 3 or if you want any tweaks. The morning sun spilled weakly over the jagged skyline as Jack's truck crawled along the fractured highway. The once bustling interstate was now a graveyard of overturned cars and abandoned vehicles, their rusted shells littering the cracked asphalt like forgotten skeletons. The scent of dry earth and distant smoke hung heavy in the air. Up ahead, a sudden obstacle forced Jack to slam the brakes. A barricade of twisted metal, toppled trucks, and wooden pallets stretched across the road, a desperate attempt to block passage. Jack's fingers tightened around the steering wheel as he scanned the scene, searching for signs of danger. Beyond the blockade, two figures moved cautiously among the wreckage. Their silhouettes were sharp against the haze, survivors, by the look of their cautious stance and the weapons clutched in their hands. Jack's heart skipped. For days, he had traveled alone, trusting no one. Trust was a rare currency now, more valuable than ammunition, and twice as dangerous to spend. Yet, the thought of company, even strangers, sparked a flicker of hope. He killed the engine and stepped out, his dog padding silently by his side. The air was thick with tension as the three stared at each other, wary, uncertain. "Who are you?" Jack called, voice steady but guarded. "We're just trying to get through," one of the strangers answered, a woman with sharp eyes and a bandana wrapped around her neck. "Name's Lisa. This is Mark. We've been moving north, looking for the same place you are." Jack eyed them carefully, noting the dirt and weariness etched into their faces. They carried makeshift weapons, a baseball bat wrapped with barbed wire and a hunting knife, signs of countless fights fought and won. "Safe zone?" Jack asked cautiously. Lisa nodded. "Yeah. Heard rumors. There's a community up near the old dam. They say it's secure, people working together, rebuilding." Jack felt a pang of longing but kept his expression neutral. "Why block the road?" Mark shrugged, glancing around nervously. "Zombies. And others. Not everyone wants newcomers. We've had trouble with raiders, desperate folks who'll do anything for supplies." A low growl interrupted the tense exchange. Jack turned sharply, crowbar raised. From behind the convoy wreckage, a small group of zombies shuffled into view. Their pale skin stretched tight over exposed bones, eyes milky with hunger. Lisa shouted, "Get ready." Jack and Mark moved into position, weapons at the ready. The dog growled fiercely, hair bristling. The undead lurched forward, slow but relentless. Jack swung his crowbar with practiced precision, cracking skulls with every strike. Mark's bat connected with a sickening thud, sending one staggering backward. Lisa fired a silenced pistol, the shot dropping another before it could reach them. The fight was quick but brutal. As the last zombie fell, the survivors exchanged heavy breaths and wary glances. "We can't stay here long," Lisa said, eyes scanning the horizon. "More are coming." Jack nodded. The encounter reminded him why solitude was safer, but also how impossible it was to face this world completely alone. "Come with us," Lisa offered suddenly. "We could use another pair of hands." Jack hesitated. Trust was a gamble, and the stakes were life or death. But the road ahead was long and broken, and the thought of navigating it with allies was tempting. He glanced at the dog, then back to Lisa and Mark. "All right," he said quietly. "But one wrong move, and I'm gone." Lisa smiled faintly. "Fair enough." Together, the three survivors began to clear the blockade, making a fragile path through the wreckage. The dog trotted close behind, ears alert. As the truck roared back to life and rolled forward, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that the road ahead would test not just their strength, but their very will to survive. Because in Dead America, danger came not only from the undead, but from the living, too. "Would you like me to keep going with part 4? The truck's headlights cut through the creeping dusk as they moved cautiously along the cracked highway. The sun was dipping behind distant hills, leaving long shadows that seemed to stretch like grasping hands across the road. Jack sat behind the wheel, alert and silent, his eyes flicking between the cracked windshield and the rearview mirror. Lisa and Mark exchanged quiet words in the back seat, but the tension in the air was palpable. They all knew what lurked beyond the darkness, not just the dead, but the desperate living, each with their own dangerous agendas. Suddenly, Mark hissed, "Stop." Jack slammed on the brakes, tires skidding over loose gravel. Up ahead, the highway forked sharply. One path led toward a dense forest, the other toward a dilapidated bridge spanning a murky river. Lisa pointed toward the bridge. "We need to cross before it gets too dark." "The forest, it's easy to get lost out there, and worse, easy to get trapped." Jack's gaze shifted nervously to the bridge, a rickety structure patched together with rusted metal beams and wooden planks. The river beneath churned sluggishly, carrying debris from the broken world downstream. They edged forward slowly, the truck creaking under the strain of the uneven planks. Every inch felt like a gamble. Halfway across, a sudden crack echoed through the night. A plank gave way beneath the rear tires, sending a shower of splinters into the black water below. Jack's heart stopped. He slammed the brakes, but the truck jolted, rocking dangerously. "Hold on!" Lisa shouted. Mark grabbed the door handle, bracing himself. The truck lurched forward, tires skidding on unstable boards. Inch by inch, they made it across, the bridge trembling beneath them. Once safely on the other side, they didn't stop to breathe. Up ahead, a dim glow flickered from a cluster of buildings, the outskirts of what looked like a small town. Smoke curled from chimneys, and faint sounds of voices carried on the wind. "Looks like a settlement," Mark whispered. "Maybe the safe zone." Jack's grip on the wheel tightened. After so long alone, the idea of shelter, of other people, was almost too good to believe. But as they approached, a chill ran down Jack's spine. Something was off. The town seemed eerily quiet, too quiet. Lights flickered irregularly, and no one stood guard at the gates. The fences were broken, some buildings bore scorch marks, and the scent of something burnt lingered in the air. "Maybe they evacuated," Lisa suggested. "Or maybe the dead found their way in." Jack scanned the perimeter, crowbar ready. The dog growled low, ears pinned back. They pulled the truck inside the gate and cut the engine. As they stepped out, the silence pressed down like a weight. The streets were deserted, littered with debris and overturned carts. Footsteps echoed somewhere in the distance, but there was no one to be seen. Lisa raised a hand. "Stay alert." They moved cautiously, sweeping through the buildings. One was a makeshift clinic, beds overturned and supplies scattered. Another, a school, had broken windows and classrooms left frozen in time. Then, without warning, a faint sound echoed, a soft, rhythmic tapping, coming from the town's central square. Jack motioned for silence. They crept toward the source, weapons drawn. In the square, under the flickering streetlight, they found an old man, ragged, but alive. His eyes were wide with fear as he tapped a rusted metal pipe against a trash can lid. "Who are you?" Jack demanded. The man's voice was shaky. "Name's Harold. I'm the last here. The others, they didn't make it." "What happened?" Lisa asked. Harold looked around nervously. "Raiders. They came in the night. Took supplies, took people. Left the dead behind. Now they're back, hunting. I've been warning anyone who comes near." Jack exchanged a glance with Lisa and Mark. The safe zone was no sanctuary. It was a trap. The dog growled sharply, ears pricked. From the shadows, figures began to emerge, not undead, but armed raiders, their faces masked, weapons gleaming in the dim light. "Welcome to Dead America," one of them sneered. "Looks like fresh meat just rolled in." Jack tightened his grip on the crowbar. This fight was just beginning. "Would you like me to continue with part 5? The raiders closed in, their eyes cold and unyielding under their makeshift masks. Jack could feel the tension coil like a spring in his chest. There was no time for negotiation, only survival. Lisa stepped forward, her voice steady but firm. "We don't want trouble. Just passing through." The leader of the raiders sneered, his weapon trained on them. "Passing through? This is our territory now. You pay the toll, or you don't leave." Mark's hand went instinctively to his bat, ready to defend. The dog growled, a low, warning rumble that echoed in the empty square. Jack took a slow breath, eyes darting for an opening. We don't have anything worth your toll. But we're not looking to fight either. Too bad, the raider said, stepping forward, signaling with a sharp whistle. From the dark alleys, more figures emerged, surrounding Jack and the others. They were outnumbered and trapped. Suddenly, without warning, the dog lunged forward, teeth bared, causing a momentary distraction. Jack seized the chance to swing his crowbar, smashing it down on a raider's arm. A sharp cry pierced the night. Chaos erupted. Lisa fired her pistol into the air, then aimed at the closest attacker. Mark swung his bat with brutal force, knocking one raider to the ground. The square became a battleground, echoes of shouts and crashing weapons filling the air. Jack fought with every ounce of strength, his crowbar connecting with bone and metal. The dog weaved between enemies, teeth snapping, its loyalty unwavering. But the raiders were ruthless, their numbers overwhelming. A sharp pain flared in Jack's side, a blow caught him off guard, sending him staggering. He gritted his teeth, refusing to fall. Lisa shouted, "Fall back!" The three survivors scrambled toward the alleyways, dodging strikes and returning fire. Behind them, the raiders' curses faded into the distance as they regrouped, unwilling to lose their prey. Panting and wounded, Jack slammed the truck door shut, slamming the engine to life. Lisa climbed in beside him, Mark following quickly. "Drive!" Jack barked. The truck lurched forward, tires spinning on gravel as they sped away from the haunted town and the threat it held. Silence settled over the cabin, heavy and suffocating. Blood seeped through Jack's shirt, but adrenaline masked the pain. "We need to stop and patch you up," Lisa said, voice calm but urgent. Jack shook his head. "Not yet. We can't risk stopping until we find a safer place." Mark glanced nervously at the rearview mirror. "They're not giving up that easy." For the first time, Jack felt the full weight of their situation. The road wasn't just broken by the undead, the living could be just as dangerous, maybe more. Hours passed, the truck cutting through barren landscapes and shattered highways. The dog rested silently on the floor, alert but exhausted. As night deepened, distant howls echoed through the hills. Jack knew the dead were never far behind, always waiting for a mistake. Ahead, the faint glow of a gas station flickered, an island of light in a sea of darkness. Jack's voice was low but determined. "That's our next stop." Lisa nodded. "Let's hope it's not another trap." But in dead America, hope was a fragile thing, easily shattered, like the broken highways they traveled. "Would you like me to continue with part 6? The gas station stood at the edge of a long-abandoned town, its flickering neon sign barely holding onto life. Jack eased the truck to a stop beneath the sputtering light, the engine's hum fading into an uneasy silence. The dog shifted in the back seat, nostrils flaring as it sniffed the thickening night air. Lisa and Mark exchanged wary glances. This place looked too quiet, too still. But they had no choice. Fuel was their lifeline, and they needed supplies. Jack grabbed his crowbar, Lisa checked her pistol, and Mark tightened the strap on his bat. They stepped out cautiously, the gravel crunching underfoot as they moved toward the gas pumps. The cold night air bit at their skin, every sound magnified in the eerie stillness. The pumps were dry, nothing to fuel the truck. Jack cursed under his breath. "Great." Suddenly, a soft scuffling noise came from the convenience store. Lisa raised her pistol. "Stay sharp." They crept toward the building, eyes straining through the darkness. The door hung slightly ajar, swaying gently with the breeze. Jack pushed it open, the rusty hinges groaning loudly. Inside, the fluorescent lights flickered, casting long, twitching shadows on the cracked linoleum floor. Shelves were overturned, cans and packets scattered like forgotten memories. The air was stale, tinged with a faint metallic scent. Then, movement. From the shadows, a figure emerged, gaunt, pale, eyes glazed but unnervingly alert. Jack froze. The dog growled low, stepping protectively in front of them. Lisa whispered, "It's one of them." But this one was different. The figure blinked, confusion flickering in its vacant gaze. It didn't lunge or growl, instead, it reached out, trembling. Mark took a cautious step forward. Maybe it's not fully changed. Jack's mind raced. Could the infection be slow? Was this someone trapped between life and death? Before he could decide, the figure's eyes sharpened, a sudden rage flashing. It screamed, lunging at Mark with unnatural speed. Mark barely dodged, swinging his bat and connecting with a sickening thud. The figure collapsed, unmoving. Breathing hard, Jack looked around. The store had more than just one shadowed figure. Dozens of pale shapes stirred in the aisles, restless and dangerous. "Trap," Lisa hissed. "We need to get out." They backed away carefully, but the store's layout was a maze of debris and fallen shelves. Suddenly, the dog barked sharply, lunging toward a dark corner. Another figure surged forward, knocking Mark to the ground. Jack rushed to help, pulling Mark free and swinging his crowbar at the advancing threat. The fight was brutal and frantic, each second stretched thin between survival and death. Finally, battered but alive, they stumbled outside, slamming the door shut behind them. The gas station was no refuge, it was a tomb. Jack wiped sweat and blood from his brow. "We can't stay here." Lisa nodded. "But we can't go back either." Mark's voice was grim. "What now?" Jack looked up at the shattered highway stretching into the darkness. "There's a town about 50 miles east," he said. "Maybe we can find shelter there." The dog whimpered softly, sensing the uncertainty. Jack climbed back into the truck, the engine roaring to life once more. As they drove away from the flickering gas station, a shadow moved in the distance, silent, watching, waiting. In dead America, every light was a beacon, and every beacon attracted something hungry. Would you like me to continue with Part 7? The cracked highway stretched endlessly ahead, swallowed by the thickening fog rolling in from the nearby woods. Jack's hands tightened on the steering wheel, eyes scanning the shadowy edges of the road. The truck's headlights pierced the mist, illuminating shattered signs and overturned vehicles, ghosts of a world long lost. Lisa sat beside him, her gaze flicking between the road and the rearview mirror, as if expecting something to appear at any moment. Mark rested in the back, leaning against the door, muscles tense, ready for any sudden attack. The dog lay quietly, ears twitching to the faintest sound. The town ahead was a whispered rumor among the survivors, a place called Haven's End. A name that promised refuge but carried the weight of unspoken warnings. Jack's voice broke the silence. "We need to be careful. Haven's End isn't just abandoned. It's been fought over. People have gone in, and never come back." Lisa's eyes narrowed. "What kind of people?" "Desperate ones," Jack said. "Maybe worse." The truck rolled to a slow stop at the town's outskirts. Empty streets stretched before them, lined with boarded-up shops and rusted streetlights flickering weakly. The silence was thick, pressing in from all sides. They stepped out, weapons ready, every sound amplified, the crunch of their boots on broken glass, the distant howl of the wind weaving through shattered windows. Suddenly, movement flickered near an old diner. Shadows danced, and a faint light glowed from inside. "Someone's there," Mark whispered. They approached cautiously, the dog leading, nose low. Inside, the diner was eerily intact. A single candle flickered on a dusty table, casting long shadows. There were signs of recent activity, footprints in the dust, a half-empty coffee cup, a faint smell of smoke. "Hello?" Lisa called softly. No answer. Jack motioned for silence. They moved deeper, senses alert. From the back room, a figure emerged, a man, gaunt and wary, clutching a rusty knife. His eyes were sharp but filled with exhaustion. "Who are you?" Jack asked. The man hesitated, then nodded toward the back door. "You shouldn't be here. It's not safe. We're looking for shelter." "Maybe some help," Lisa said. The man's grip on the knife loosened slightly. "Help is scarce these days." Suddenly, a distant groan echoed, sending a shiver down their spines. "Dead or near," the man warned. "And something worse stalks this town." Jack exchanged a glance with Lisa and Mark. The unknown threat chilled them more than the undead. Tell us everything, Jack demanded. The man sighed, shoulders slumping. There's a group, survivors like you, but ruthless. They call themselves the Reapers. They control most of Haven's End. Anyone who crosses them doesn't live to tell the tale. Lisa's grip tightened on her pistol. How do we avoid them? You don't, the man said grimly. Not if they want you. But I know a way out, a hidden tunnel beneath the old church. It leads to the highway beyond the town. Jack nodded, determination hardening his features. Then that's where we go. As they prepared to leave, the distant groans grew louder. Shadows shifted in the fog outside. The dog growled low, hackles raised. We have to move. Now, Jack said. The group hurried through the empty streets, the eerie silence broken only by their hurried steps and the faint, relentless moans of the undead. As they reached the church's crumbling steps, a sharp sound cut through the air, a metallic clang, followed by heavy footsteps. Jack spun around. The Reapers. Armed, ruthless, and relentless. The fight for Haven's End had just begun. Would you like me to continue with Part 8, the final part? The Reapers' footsteps thundered behind them, sharp and merciless in the silent streets of Haven's End. Jack's heart pounded in his chest like a war drum as they scrambled toward the old church's crumbling entrance. Lisa fired a quick warning shot behind them, the sharp report echoing through the night. The bullets only seemed to slow their pursuers briefly. Mark slammed open the heavy church doors, revealing a shadowed stairway spiraling down into darkness. Without hesitation, they plunged into the cold, damp tunnel beneath. The faint light from above faded as they descended into the underground passage. The air was thick and musty, carrying the scent of mold and forgotten secrets. Jack's flashlight flickered, casting jittery beams on the cracked stone walls. The dog sniffed along the ground, ears alert for any sign of danger. Keep moving, Jack urged, voice barely above a whisper. The tunnel narrowed and twisted, every step echoing in the confined space. Their breaths came in short gasps, the pressure of the chase pressing in from above. Suddenly, a low rumble vibrated through the tunnel floor. What was that? Lisa whispered, panic creeping into her voice. Jack halted, shining his light ahead. A pile of rubble blocked part of the passage, rocks and broken wood, piled haphazardly. We're not alone down here, Mark said, gripping his bat tighter. The dog growled, hackles raised. From the shadows, shapes moved, twisted figures, the undead trapped in the darkness below the town. Somehow, the infection had crept into this hidden refuge. Jack's mind raced. There was only one way out, a narrow grate at the tunnel's end that led to the highway beyond. We have to make a run for it, Jack said firmly. They moved quickly but cautiously, the undead closing in with every step. The dog's barks echoed in the darkness, as it lunged to slow the advancing figures. Reaching the grate, Mark struggled to pry it open while Lisa kept watch. Almost, Mark grunted, sweat streaming down his face. A cold hand brushed against Lisa's arm, and she barely dodged a snapping jaw. Jack swung his crowbar, knocking the creature back. With a final push, the grate gave way, revealing the cool night air and the open highway beyond. They scrambled out, gasping as they hit the cracked asphalt. Behind them, the undead poured from the tunnel's mouth, snarling and relentless. Jack slammed the grate shut, locking it tight. They didn't stop to rest. The truck was waiting where they'd left it, headlights flickering dimly in the distance. Jack jumped in and fired up the engine, the roar breaking the silence. Lisa and Mark climbed in beside him, the dog leaping into the back seat. As the truck tore down the broken highway, the night swallowed the horrors of Haven's End behind them. Jack glanced in the rearview mirror, heart heavy but burning with hope. This road doesn't end here, he whispered. We'll find a way. We have to. The dead America stretched out before them, broken, dangerous, uncertain. But as long as they kept moving, the road to nowhere was still a road to somewhere. Would you like me to help you with anything else, like a summary or titles for your next story?